is able to be here is because nearly 30 years ago he sacked 5,500 people overnight, having recruited a pirate workforce in secret. He then, having conspired to keep that a secret, then conspired to force the original workers into a dispute. As a consequence of declaring a dispute with the company, who wanted to impose conditions that were unacceptable, a strike was declared. And it was a strike that was to become the making of the modern media. And the modern media is now one where people are forced or encouraged, coerced or blackmailed into doing things that they would never dream of doing if they worked for a decent employer. Woo! And everybody knows what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the phone hacking and the undermining of public and police officials. That's what this company is all about. The whole country knows it. We know it. And the 5,500 people who were sacked in 1986 know it only too well. We've been here demonstrating yesterday, and we will be for the rest of the week, to try to bring to the attention of all you good commuters coming in and out of London Bridge Station that what you are witnessing when you come out onto the concourse is a headquarters built on shame. Built on the shame of sacking 5,500 workers, putting them out of work forever, most of them from the industry. The dispute lasted over 12 months. We had lots of dust-ups with the boys and girls in blue, but we never got the jobs back for the people who'd been sacked. And more to the point as well as the jobs being lost, the union organisation and recognition was also destroyed. And what that meant was that there was no protection for the workers, no protection for the public, no protection for the readers. It meant that whatever went into the Sun, whatever went into the news of the world, there was no recourse, either for the employees or for the public. And that's how the phone hacking started. That's how the lies and the distortions printed in the newspapers were allowed to proliferate. And that's what the Occupy movement is about this week, saying to you as a public that what we need in the press is some provision so that people who are maligned have got some recourse, so that we have a media which is not dominated by millionaire, billionaire, conglomerate companies that control newspapers, media, electronic media, not only in the United Kingdom but across the world. You should ask yourself why in every single one of Murdoch's newspapers across the globe, all 171 of them, that they every single one without exception supported the Iraq war. You ought to ask yourself why it is that a national newspaper that claims to be a national newspaper is able to get away for all these years with leading the opening up of pornography on our newsstands, allowing our children the Daily Sport, the Sun, the Sunday Sport and all the rest of the filth going into people's minds and poisoning their weeks. You should ask yourselves why it is that in the press and the media only 3 companies dominate and have 70% of all of the newspapers. How is this possible? What are the implications for democracy and democratic rights in this country? This is what we have to start considering, and we have to say to this or any other government that might be coming in after May that they have to implement the Leveson proposals to ensure that people allowed to get away with distortion and manipulation of politicians and public officials. How did this all come about? In the case of Murdoch, he got rid of a workforce that was mature, that was union organised, that was skilled, and that was proud of what it did. But as well as being proud of producing newspapers night after night by the million, they also were able to stand up for themselves. And standing up for themselves meant that they were also able to stand up for other people. So from time to time, what used to happen, if there were particularly vicious lies printed in the newspaper, then our people, our workers, with pride in their job and pride in their democracy, were able to say to the firm, because they were union members and because they stuck together, we're not going to print that. We're not going to print that filthy racist cartoon or that disgusting piece of editorial about the miners' strike. We're not having it. We're not going to print it. And that was one of the things that Murdoch didn't like. He didn't like the challenge. You saw that during the Leveson inquiry. Putting on a show of humility and so-called humble days. What he's really like, and what the rest of them are all about, is trying to produce newspapers and to dominate the electronic media to put their point of view across. That's what it's all about. And that's one of the main reasons why 5,500 workers were sacked all those years ago. And if you trace back the decline and the deterioration in the media since that time, you can see how by removing union organisation and collective strength, democratic rights are destroyed for everybody else. I just want to say a little word about the conspiracy. It's all on the record. If anybody wants to check it, including the company, it's all on the record. The conspiracy was, and this is the advice given by the lawyers who came to see the exhibition that we put on about it a couple of years ago. They checked the whole thing word by word. And I'm sure that if there was anything that we'd said that wasn't true, they would have been on us like a rash. But they haven't been. This is what happened. The lawyers said to the company, if you create a dispute, that is the best way of getting rid of the workforce. And if you time it right, you can get the whole lot, not just part of the workforce. And that's exactly what happened. A dispute was created, a pretext for a dispute was created. We didn't know that a workforce had been recruited and trained to replace the 5,500 workers, and so the strike was declared. It's on the record, it's on the website, it's in the exhibition. So if you want to have a look, come and get a leaflet, look at the Occupy Murdoch website, you'll find the link there. Thank you very much, and if you've got any questions, then do come over and have a word.
Thank you.
Question?
A question?
I wondered if you had any advice for the people that are working there. And the second thing was any comments about the role of Mrs. Thatcher. I understand that, for example, the 30-year rule has showed just how she lied and how she'd gone round the Monopolies and Mergers Commission to let Murdoch get more of the press in the UK. Could you talk about the staff today and Mrs. Thatcher? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The question is, what message have we got for the staff who work at News UK today, and what role did Mrs. Thatcher play in her relationship with Murdoch? The first question, the reply is that for all workers in the media or any other organisation, all workers need the protection of a trade union.
Great.
All workers, irrespective of what they do, all workers, all employees need to feel the support of each other, especially in circumstances where people are bullied or feel uncertain about what their future is. The need for union organisation has never been so strong in probably 30 years of life in the UK. In many ways, conditions are being driven back to over 100 years ago. 0 hours contracts these days is the exact equivalent of when dockers and print workers and factory workers in the 19th century were made to line up every day to be chosen. You, and you, and the rest of you can go to hell. So my message for News UK workers is, no matter how well paid you are today, no matter how well you're doing in the job, and I hope that you're proud and enjoying that job, you will need union organisation, you'll need union membership on those occasions when you need advice and when you're told that your job is going to change, or when the day comes when you have a disagreement or feel, particularly in the case of the editorial workers, that you're being expected to do something which you know is not right. There is no disagreement between anyone in Occupy and anyone who's attending these demonstrations and workers in News UK. If you're not already in the NUJ, then you should be in the NUJ. If you're not already in Unite and you work in the offices, you should be in Unite. The same goes for the police. If you're not already in the Police Federation, you should be in the Police Federation. If you're not already in the Transport Union, you should be in either Unite or the RMT or ASLEF. And the same goes for all the workers in the hospital. If you're not already in Unite or in Unison, you should be in Unite or Unison. And so that's the message that I've got for News UK workers. Join the union. Seek the support and the help of the union. Now, Mrs. Thatcher, well, what more can I say that hasn't already been said? The question refers to what happened in 1981 when Murdoch, having already bought the Sun and News of the World, decided that he would try to legitimise himself by buying the posh people's newspaper. And what he wanted to do was to top and bottom the market. He already was trailing the Sun in the gutter, having bought the News of the World first, and then he bought the Sun. And then because he was regarded as an interloper and the posh people thought he was just somebody from Oz with corks round his hat, he decided that what he wanted to do was expand his empire and ensure that he was kingpin in the industry. And it was cleared by the government. Margaret Thatcher waved it through. There was something called the Monopolies and Mergers Commission. And it's much the same as today, that big business rules. Competition Commission, Monopolies and Mergers Commission, they're all the same. If you've got the power, if you've got the political power as well as the dollars and the pounds, then you win out. And that's exactly what happened. So Murdoch was allowed to buy the Times and the Sunday Times. And we believe that there was collusion between the government of the day and Murdoch in relation to the policing at Wapping as well as the conspiracy at Wapping to sack the 5,500 workers. That's the answer.
What can you do to stop these companies becoming so big and powerful?
The question is, what can we do to stop these companies so big and powerful? Well, one of the things that needs to be done is to introduce regulation to stop companies dominating the media, either sections of the media or across the media. What we need is to ensure that no single company, individual or organisation can control either the newspapers or the electronic media. And that's what we're calling for. There are all sorts of organisations now supporting the idea that we need to have a better organised media in the sense of not allowing one organisation or company to dominate. It's bad for democracy, it's bad for business, it's bad for the public, because all you get is not only just one point of view, but one type of product. It has to be right that if they can have regulations in the United States to restrict ownership in this way, and if they can have those sorts of regulations in some of the countries of Europe, then it ought to be right that we have similar regulation in the United Kingdom.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Anne Field from the Wapping Institute.
Yay.
And what's the website? Okay. Do you want to read? It's wapping-dispute.org.uk. It's really important that the new generation of young people listening to Anne today know about the history of Wapping and how the trade unions were trashed by the cooperation of the government of the time. And it's a lesson for us today, but actually the consequences of what Anne said live with us today. Poverty and death across the planet has resulted from the domination of the media by the billionaire press in Britain, in Europe, in America and across the world. And we've erected a memorial here to the dead, not just the dead Afghanis, not just to the dead Iraqis, but to the dead 754 British servicemen who died in pointless illegal wars because of the legal press. Wapping led to that. So check out the history. Thank you for listening today. Thank you, Anne, so much for coming. You're an inspiring speaker, and Occupy is really indebted to you for coming. Thank you.